Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today for your weekly top 5 video, we are talking about the strange, the unusual, the weird, and the just downright uncanny when it comes to these ships in today's video. These are ships that, well, they definitely caught all our attention when they were originally released because of just how odd and how out of the box they were upon their initial release, and how, well, they still very much are in today's World of Warships. Not exactly sure what the title of this top 5 is going to be, but that's the gist of today's top 5 video. These ships, some of them are quite good, some of them are quite, well, in my opinion, but all in all, it should be a pretty fun time here. Before we get into the list, if you do have, well, an enjoyment in watching a bunch of dudes drive across the United States, be sure to check out yesterday's video where we're bringing back the American Truck Simulator, I should say, series, where we're driving across the country trying to make as much money as possible, and of course, just hilarious and hijinks ensue. If you can't tell by the thumbnail right there, you know, a lot of times the algorithm, when I do something a little bit out of the box for the channel, doesn't really push out the notifications to you guys, so if you have an interest in that, make sure you check that out. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we are approaching 60,000 subscribers. I am doing another milestone giveaway where we will be giving away a bunch of premium ships for the 60,000 subscriber milestone being reached and exceeded. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned to the channel for that. We're getting very close to that goal very quickly. So again, make sure you stick around for that. All right, now into the list. Coming in at number 5, we have the Tier 10 Techline German destroyer, the Elbing. The Elbing is, oddly enough, one of the more normal ships on this list, which, again, should set a pretty good precedent for the rest of this list. So what is the Elbing line? Well, the Elbing line is the very, very small light cruiser line or the very, very big destroyer line. The Elbing has 34,000 HP, which is roughly about 10k more than most tier 10 destroyers do have, even some of the bigger ones like the Kleber and the Khabarovsk. So, like I said, these are really very large light cruisers. The whole line, the focus of them, at least, is that their guns are very large for a destroyer. The Elbing, for example, has 150mm guns, which is very much light cruiser territory, and they have improved AP with excellent dispersion. You can really just pick to shoot like 1 pixel on a ship with the Elbing, and these shells will more than likely go there. So the whole idea of the Elbing line is that these are destroyers that are supposed to kind of turn the tables on light cruisers and even sometimes cruisers, because with their improved AP, they can absolutely citadel most cruisers that they come across that has some type of semi-exposed broad citadel. And it is very funny when you can pull it off. Unfortunately, I got a bunch of really terrible games back to back when I was playing my Elbing, so don't unfortunately have an example of that happening here in this video, but you can check out my Elbing review where I do very much bully several light cruisers in that video. So this is a destroyer that's more than capable of, you know, turning the tables on like a Minotaur. If the Minotaur goofs up and shows the Elbing broadside. Again, other heavy cruisers too, like Moskva. You can set on Moskva with the Elbing at the right distance because of, again, the improved AP. Now, of course, the trade-off for that is that you have a very, well, not really a very long reload time for like the guns, but for obviously the class, you have a very long reload time in your main battery guns, and the HE performance is just not good at all. She still gets the German HE with the improved HE pins and all that, but the absolutely anemic HE alpha, so you definitely really want to stick with AP. Even when you have ships that are going bow into you, just aim for their superstructure. You can farm superstructure down with the Elbing, you know, like 2-3k a shot, no problem with the Elbing. Battleships, even shooting the sterns or the bow extremities of those battleships, when they show you enough side to where you can pin them, yeah, you can be chucking for like 5 or 6k a salvo. It's really nuts what the AP on the Elbing can do. Now, you do also get the very slow torpedoes, affectionately known as the sea mines. They are surprisingly good. I don't know what it is. For some reason, I either have to have like the Jaeger torpedoes that are super fast or the Elbing torpedoes that are ungodly slow to kind of do well with destroyers and their torps. I guess it's that players don't expect such a slow torpedo, so when you get spotted, they might be looking out for a couple of seconds, but they take so long to get there, they forget that, well, they either forget that you have them, or they think, you've already launched your torpedoes, or you didn't launch torpedoes, and then, they slam into their sides. So they're pretty slow, but they do a healthy amount of damage. They are, I believe, the same as the Schlieffen's torpedoes. So if you've played the Schlieffen, that's the same type of torpedoes you get here on the Elbing. They also have really, really good AA, the Elbing line. It's very odd. They gave this line in all the German, tech tree. They give this line the awesome AA. So a very strange bunch of destroyers here, but very much fun if you can get the guns to work, and if you are good at aiming, better than me for sure. You can do a lot with the Elbing here, so it's a really solid line in my opinion, but definitely odd for the destroyer slot, right? Alright, we go on our way down now to our number 4 slot, which is the Tier 9 Premium Commonwealth Light Cruiser, the Hector. Now the Hector is, well, you bolt a bunch of, I believe, daring turrets to a light cruiser, and then you have this very, very strange layout in the front. You have like a diamond shape in the front, because I guess the British or the Australians saw what the Americans were doing with the Atlanta, and they just decided that, you know what, the Americans can't be the only one to bolt an absurd amount of destroyer turrets to a cruiser and call it a day. We gotta one-up them. So yeah, the Hector is just weird in that regard. So you get 3 turrets and a very standard setup on the stern, but in the bow you get this weird quad turret setup, which is oddly actually pretty useful from the right angle, because that means at the right angle you can get all the turrets in the back, all the turrets in the front on target, so you can rain down a fair amount of HE upon the enemy team when you have the ship spotted to do so, at least, unlike what I was having to deal with in the batch in the background. But yeah, when you can get in a good spot, we can sling these HE shells over an island or from the safety of your crawling smoke screen. Yeah, you can really get some DPM going on the enemy ships, and with the good reload time of the Hector, along with the ability to arc your shells, you'll be burning down quite a few ships pretty quickly with the Hector. And it's also really solid for dealing with enemy destroyers as well, obviously having, a high number of guns like that. But like every British or British adjacent light cruise, the Hector is very much frail. You eat, one battleship shell from the wrong angle, and, well, there goes about half of your HP. She does, of course, get the British super heal, like, again, most British adjacent light cruisers do get. You can also single launch your torpedoes as well. The Hector is, from my experience, once you get used to the oddness of it, I mean, it's not really, an odd thing, having a bunch of destroyer guns mounted to a ship, but just the way that they are mounted, it just looks so weird. So while the Elbing's kind of an odd thing to have in a destroyer slot, the Hector isn't really odd to have something like this in a cruiser slot. It's just the way that it's set up is really weird, and it just looks so goofy, right? Like, look how wide the front of this ship is, because you have 2 turrets sitting next to each other on the bow of the ship. I don't know if the ship would have been like stable in real life. I don't think so. I mean, there's a reason the guns are mounted on the center line, right? It increases the ship's stability, and I mean, you wouldn't really in real life, you weren't worried about what are your gun angles from the front or anything like that, because ships are just broadside each other and parallel lines usually back in the day. So you didn't really need to situate them to where you can fire all your guns from a forward-facing perspective like many of us are trying to do in game. Which, yeah, the Hector can definitely do that quite easily. Again, from the right angle, you can get all your guns on target, and it is a beautiful rainbow of HE heading toward the enemy team when you do get that angle correct. But yeah, just an odd ship. It's fairly decent from my experience as far as light cruisers go, but I wouldn't really say you have to drop what you're doing in order to pick her up. Alright, on our way down now to number 3. We have the Tier 9 American battleship, the Illinois. So the Illinois is, man, this is a ship that is just, it's a ton of fun. It is. It's such a mess of a ship, too. So what the Illinois is, it is essentially what the Navy was, one of the projects, I should say, the Navy was considering pursuing with the unfinished Iowa hulls. Because you had, the 4 sisters, and there were 2 more that were ready to go, although they had to rip the bow off of the Kentucky and weld it to the Wisconsin when she had a little accident, and now she's henceforth known as the Whiskey. But anyway, so this is what they were considering doing with, the Illinois, which was supposed supposed to be I think the 6th or the 5th ship in the Iowa class, because the hull was done, but the guns hadn't been mounted. And in the post-war world, battleships wasn't really looking like they were going to be sticking around for too long. So there were plans to turn the unfinished Iowa into, like a missile barge or a hybrid ship with 2 turrets in the front and then a runway in the back. And then there was this design, apparently, where you just bolt a bunch of Des Moines turrets, quad Des Moines turrets, onto the unfinished Iowa hull and call it a day. And, well, we get to see this beautiful monstrosity be completed in World of Warships with the Illinois. So the Illinois is, if you've ever been selling your Des Moines and you think, man, these guns are great, but my God, I wish I had better armor. Here you go. You get the Des Moines guns, you get, 3 turrets with 4 guns per turret, 12 of them. So you basically have 1.5 Des Moines here in an Iowa hull, albeit with less HP and such. But you get a bit of it's not an improved hill. It's the American improved battleship hill, but because of the lesser HP, it appears like you're getting a whole lot of health back that you normally would. But the American battleship hill is an improved hill anyway, so yeah, my point stands. But yeah, you get the Des Moines AP, with those improved AP pin angles, and you get 12 guns now and a battleship hull. So you can make a lot of stuff happen with the Illinois. And, it is still a battleship hull, so you can do battleship things, get in more aggressive positions with that Des Moines DPM goodness. So it's a fun ship. It's kind of goofy what you can do with it at times. If you have Halsey, this is a fantastic ship to run Halsey on, because Confederate is not that hard to get with, again, at 12 Des Moines guns. And while you're thinking, I like my battleship guns, I like being able to blat people's broadside. Look, when you're chewing down an enemy battleship for 10k a salvo every again, depending upon what your build is, anywhere from 12 seconds down to the sky's the limit with Halsey's Confederate skill and adrenaline rush. That's pretty good. I ran this in, I forget which season of Brawls, and she was really, really good at chewing through other battleships once you get to their side, because of, again, that improved American super heavy AP. So yeah, this ship, it's weird. It was a real design, however, and it's kind of a good time in game. Obviously, this isn't something to pick up if you like playing battleships. You still want to sit in the back at 18 kilometers and try to snipe, because it still, again, does have the Des Moines guns, the good and the bad. So you got that very, very terrible, air drag coefficient going on here. So trying to farm from range isn't really something you can do on the regular unless you got someone that's just selling in a straight line. This is definitely a close-in ship, and again, it's a fun one at that, in my humble opinion. It does have a submerged citadel as well, so you are not getting citadeled in the Illinois. Thank God. Alright, and now we go down to our number 2 slot, which is occupied by the Tier 9 American battleship, the Kearsarge. You can't have a weird or odd, list without including the Kearsarge in there somewhere, because this is the point I think most of us realized that wargaming was not taking a step back from hybrids after the Issei and the Tone, which those two were real-life hybrid ships. But they were really built or converted to be in that configuration. And then the next thing we get is this boy, this thick, chunky, tumorous boy here with the Kearsarge. So, if the hangar and flight deck in the middle of the ship doesn't give it away, this is a hybrid ship. And it was just so weird. I remember seeing this, I remember it being brought to my attention. I was streaming at the time, and someone typed in chat, "Hey, Sealer, did you see the Iowa hybrid?" And I'm like, what? They're actually going with the hybrid Iowa design? And I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. They're making a hybrid Iowa now. And then someone right after that guy commented that, and after I said that, the next viewer said, well, actually, it's a hybrid Montana. Yeah, so not only is this thing, a hybrid ship with its own flight of rocket aircraft, you still have 12 16-inch guns on a Tier 9 battleship, which is nuts, because 12 16-inch guns, 12 15-inch guns on a Tier 9 battleship, that's a pretty good amount of firepower. So when you crank those up to 12 16-inch guns with the American shells, that's just kind of nuts. Now, granted, you do have a 35-second reload for that, but that plus the planes, that's nuts. So what you get in the Kearsarge is, well, you get 12 of the North Carolina's guns, which does mean you have to get closer to the fight because the North Carolina's guns have a 45 caliber barrel instead of the 50 caliber barrel that the Iowa and the Montana get. So the barrel is shorter, so the shells come out of the barrel slower, which means outside of like 17 kilometers, 16 kilometers, your shells are going to take an eternity to get to their target. So it's not very viable to use at range in most cases. Again, unless you get someone that's just like sailing in a perfectly straight line and doesn't touch their WSA or D key. So you do have to play it from fairly close in, which oddly enough, the Kearsarge is really not that bad from medium range because this was designed from the ground up to be a hybrid ship. It's not a conversion like the Issei, so she's actually, fast enough to keep up at mid-range and disengage when she needs to do so. Now, of course, you have that giant hangar and flight deck chilling in the midsection of your ship. That is a very easy source of damage when it comes to shooting the Kearsarge, but if you can bait enemies to shoot to your belt, to shoot into your belt, it'll bounce them because it's got some pretty decent armor overall. Again, you have 12 16-inch guns to return fire with, which they will put in the work. Don't you worry about that. And then to top it all off, you get a single flight of Midway rocket planes, which it's just so weird. You have this whole flight deck here, and you just have the rocket planes. Which, they are the Midway rockets. They do have a fantastic penetration ability and great fire chance. So when you're waiting for the guns to reload, you send the planes up. You go get a nice 8 to 10k HE alpha damage and maybe 1 or 2 fires on the enemy ship that you're going after to just have a very nice and solid damage income here with the Kearsarge. It's no problem for the Kearsarge to get like an easy 120, 130, 150,000 damage a game thanks to those rocket planes. Because, in those situations where the enemy ships are all sunk on your side, you got to go sail to the other side of the map before you can get into effective gun range. You can be sitting the planes there, the very second they come off cooldown and just be getting good, consistent damage that way. So it's a great ship. It is a coal ship. It's probably one of the better coal ships in the game. It's a hybrid ship, but the fact remains that it is a very, very good ship at the end of the day either way. So, speaking of hybrids, that takes us now down to our number 1 slot, where we find everyone's favorite new ship, the Hildebrand, the German hybrid cruiser that no one really likes except for the Hildebrand main. So yeah, this is our first Tier 10 German cruiser, German premium large super cruiser, I should say. And why Wargaming? Why didn't we get a 4-turreted gear as our Tier 10 German cruiser? We got this thing instead, which is so weird. So the Hildebrand's weird for a whole litany of reasons. First off, the thing, look at it. It's just, what is this Wargaming? It's a design. I'll say that. It is for sure a design. The Kearsarge was a real design, so was the Illinois. I don't think the Hildebrand was. If it is, please correct me in the comments down below. But anyway, this ship is a departure from the previously established hybrid formula that we had in the game. Like the Kearsarge that we were just talking about. The Kearsarge is still first and foremost a battleship. If you're not playing it like a battleship, you're not going to do well in the Kearsarge. The Hildebrand, on the other hand, is, well, you can just play it as a CV and be perfectly fine. The background footage you're watching right now, in fact, I made the mistake of leaving spawn. I got focused down hard because, well, no one likes the Hildebrand. And I lost so much HP, I had to go sit in the back with the CV and just play as a CV. And guess what? It worked out fine for me and the Hildebrand. I did a decent amount of damage, and I didn't feel like I really missed out on much that match. Because the Hildebrand's torpedo aircraft, which have the rocket torpedoes that I believe the Richthofen gets, they regenerate essentially every 60 seconds. Especially once you pop, if you have him, which you should, Lucian's restoration skill, aircraft restoration skill, where once you get 35 munition hits on targets with your planes, you get a boost to the preparation time of your aircraft. You're pumping out these rocket torpedo planes every 60 seconds, basically, which is absurd. Because by the time you launch the aircraft, the timer starts counting down the second you hit the button to launch your aircraft. By the way, so by the time you launch your aircraft, find a target, fly to them, drop your torpedoes off on them. You've probably got maybe 20 or 30 seconds left before the planes come off a cooldown. And that's if you know exactly where you're going to. If you have to wander around for a bit, there's a very good chance when you get back to your Hildebrand, your next set of rocket planes are going to be ready. And then to top it all off, you get to the, I can't remember the name of it. It is the Tier 6 Premium German CV. It's kind of busted, but you get that carrier's HE dive bombers, which the reticle for it is so tiny, you can pretty much be sure to fit it inside the deck of most tier 10 ships, which means good, consistent damage. From my experience, at least 10k and at least almost always a fire on target with these bombs. Now, granted, those guys do have a bit of a longer reload time, so you can't really, just spam those out. But in the match watching in the background, I don't fire the main battery guns but for, I think, like 5 times. And that wasn't until the end of the match. Oh, also, too, if you build into the secondaries, the Hildebrand has 12.5 kilometer secondaries. Now, they aren't very accurate. From my experience, they don't do a whole lot of heavy lifting, but they are there if you do need it. So this is just such a break from the norm that was established with all the previous hybrid ships. Because again, like the Issei, the Tone, the Issei is still a battleship first, the Tone is still a cruiser first, and they just so happen to be able to launch aircraft. They are battleships and cruisers with a flight deck. They are not a CV with guns. The Hildebrand is a CV with guns, essentially. And, well, is that going to be the model going forward with these hybrid ships? Well, we don't know. I hope not, because what makes the other hybrids tolerable is that, you're still playing them like battleships and like cruisers. But this guy, again, you can just sit in the back of the map and spam planes and not really worry about much of anything, because you'll get good damage from it. I'm a terrible CV player, and I'm still getting decent damage from the Hildebrand when I'm playing her, at least, so there's that. But guys, that is the end of this top 5 list. Let me know in the comments down below, what are some weird, odd, and just downright strange ships that you would have included on this list that maybe I forgot? What do you disagree with my list on, and what do you disagree with my list on? Let me know all that stuff in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe for the 60k giveaway, and also leave a like down below as well. Helps out on the YouTube side of things. Hope you guys have a great Monday and a great rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.